Africa Democracy Radio.
94.9
FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
Hey, it's midday in Dakar and Conakry, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon and thank you for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio. Broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Relatives of former Guinean Minister Camara regain freedom days after abduction by unknown men. Banjul holds a 3-day regional conference on data management and innovation.
Effective data governance underpins trustworthy health system, and it also bolsters governance and security.
Liberia's Anti-Corruption Commission dismisses cases against 28 current and former government officials. And Aliko Dangote and 3 Nigerians join Forbes' list of Africa's 23 wealthiest individuals. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu Jibril Janko.
Many thanks for joining our midday broadcast. The Newslink begins in Mali, where the public prosecutor has requested a 5-year prison sentence for journalist Yusuf Sissoko at the end of his trial. The prosecutor is also seeking a 10-year suspension of his newspaper lieutenants. Sissoko is facing charges over an article criticizing Nigeria's transitional president Abdurrahman Tiani following the February attack on Niamey's airport. Christopher Aticho has the details.
At the end of the hearings, the public prosecutor requested 5 years in prison for Yusuf Sissoko and asked that his weekly newspaper lieutenants be suspended for 10 years. The publisher is facing charges of insulting a foreign head of state, undermining the credibility of the state, and spreading false information. The case follows the publication of an article questioning statements made by the Nigerian transitional president after the attack on Niamey Airport late January. General Abdurrahman Tiani had accused President Emmanuel Macron, Alassane Ouattara, and Patrice Talon of being involved in the attack, which was later claimed by the Islamic State group. Before the court, the newspaper's publication director acknowledged the facts presented against him, saying he did not have time to read the article before it was published. However, his lawyer rejected the accusations, arguing that his client was simply carrying out his duties as a journalist. He also stressed that the press has a role in reporting analysis and opinions. The case comes as several journalists in Mali have faced legal action in recent months. Among them is Ali Hussein Togo, publication director of the newspaper Le Canard de la Venise, who was also detained over his publications before later being released. After hearing the prosecution's request and the defense argument, the court adjourned the case until March 23 for its ruling.
A report by WDR's Aliu Cham in Bamako and presented by Christopher Atijo. In Guinea, the mother and sister of former Minister Tibu Camara, who were abducted on March 3, 2026, have returned to their home in Dingirai. Their return ends several days of uncertainty and concern following the abduction, which had prompted strong reactions from human rights organizations. Here is Osman Omar with additional details.
After several days of uncertainty and concern, the family of former Minister Thibaut Camara can finally breathe a sigh of relief. His 84-year-old mother, Hadja Assoumou Diallo, and his sister, Hadja Binta Camara, aged 68, have returned to their family home in Dinguiraye. The two women were abducted on the evening of March 3rd around 8 p.m. when armed men wearing military uniforms and face coverings reportedly entered their home and took them to an unknown destination. The swift and well-organized operation caused panic in the neighborhood and raised many questions. For several days, there was no official information about their whereabouts or the identity of those responsible, increasing concern among relatives and the wider public. Human rights organizations quickly condemned the abduction and called for their release. The Africa return remained unclear. Authorities have not yet confirmed where they were held or who brought them back home.
Osman Omar with that report. Elsewhere in Liberia, the Anti-Corruption Commission has cleared 28 current and former government officials of corruption allegations after conducting investigations. The commission says the decision followed a thorough review of the cases and was based on insufficient evidence to support prosecution. The anti-corruption reaffirms its commitment to transparency, accountability and due process in the fight against corruption. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Several permanent figures have been cleared by the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, including Senator Nathaniel Mageo, Liberia Football Association President Musafa Raji, Richard Hoff of the Liberia Refugee Repatriation and Rehabilitation Commission, and Dr. Pokpa Zizi, former medical director of Bone Mines Company. LACC chairperson Alexandra Zoe says the decision was based on a lack of sufficient evidence to support the prosecution in line with the principles of fairness and the rule of law.
The commission undertook a thorough review consistent with established investigative procedure before issuing these clearances. After assessing the evidence before us, the Commission determined that the legal threshold required to sustain further action or prosecution had not been met at this time. Consequently, the clearance was issued in accordance with our mandate.
Also speaking, LACC Commissioner for Prosecution David Wilson said the Commission remains committed to carrying out its work in a professional, impartial and non-political manner.
These are just steps that we take as an entity to validate whatever investigative report that comes and is being approved by the board, after which the executive chairperson is mandated to issue clearance. We expect and we ask you, the press, to join us in the fight against corruption.
The dismissal of charges has sparked a political debate, with some officials accusing the LACC of undermining the government's anti-corruption efforts. However, the Commission has rejected those claims, rather describing them as inaccurate. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Meanwhile, Banjul is hosting a 3-day regional data conference for digital policy leaders and experts from across Anglophone West Africa, organized by the Gambian government with support from UNESCO. The meeting focuses on how countries can responsibly manage data and promote innovation. Participants are expected to discuss ways to strengthen digital governance and cooperation across the region. Our correspondent Sang Donald Mendy in Banjul completes the story.
Data is increasingly driving modern economies and public administration. Across West Africa, governments are strengthening systems to protect citizens' information, build trust, and support innovation. Opening the 3-day regional conference, Gambian Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Lamin Jabi, said effective data governance is key to economic growth, strong institutions, and the protection of citizens' rights.
Effective governance of data enhances decision-making, supports regulatory compliance, improves service delivery, enables the responsible use of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence.
UNESCO's regional advisor for communication and information, Elvis Michael Kenmo, also stressed that reliable data is essential for transparency.
Effective data governance underpins trustworthy health system, and it also bolsters governance and security by ensuring transparent, interoperable system that combat corruption and misinformation, that track diseases across borders in real time. It enables agricultural innovation through precise climate and market data that empower small farmers. It strengthens financial inclusion by securing digital identities and transactions.
The workshop, which runs until Wednesday, brings together policymakers, experts, and development partners to share experiences and strengthen regional cooperation on data governance. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Now talking economy, 4 Nigerian business leaders have been named on the 2026 Forbes Africa Billionaires list. These individuals are Aliko Dangote, Mike Adenuga, Abdul Samad Rabiu and Femi Otedola. According to the latest Forbes ranking, these entrepreneurs remain influential due to their business interest in the manufacturing, telecommunications, power generation, finance and oil refining sectors. WDR's Yachenu Sasitu in Abuja provides the details.
With an estimated net worth of $28.5 billion, Aliko Dangote retains his position as Africa's richest man, driven largely by the activities of the Dangote Group in cement, sugar, and oil refining. Similarly, Mike Adenuga, founder of Globalcom, continues to feature prominently on the list, while Abdusamad Rabiu of Bua Group and investor Femi Otedola also maintained their positions among the continent's richest individuals. Companies owned by the billionaires operate in sectors such as manufacturing, telecommunications, and energy. These industries also support employment through factory operations, distribution networks, construction projects, and supply chains that involve thousands of workers and small businesses. However, economists say the growing wealth of Nigeria's billionaire class is increasingly being examined alongside the country's economic realities. As of 2025, 139 million Nigerians, or about 62% of the population, are living in poverty. Sam Gaza, an entrepreneur in the publishing sector, while congratulating the business leaders, talks about how these leaders can expand opportunities for young Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Is that these people invest in, let's say, infrastructure that enables young people, right? For example, data centers or opportunities that empower younger people so that younger people can grow at their own level and at their own pace.
The Forbes report indicates that 23 billionaires across Africa now hold a combined wealth of about $126.7 billion, reflecting a significant increase from the previous year as the continent's richest individuals added billions to their fortunes. For WADR, Yechenu Sasitu in Abuja.
Elsewhere, authorities in Cote d'Ivoire are stepping up efforts to combat the illegal use of butane gas as fuel in vehicles, a practice increasingly adopted by some taxi drivers. Officials warn the activity poses serious safety risk to the public. During a recent operation in Akupe and Abenguru, authorities seized nearly 1,800 gas cylinders as part of efforts to curb the practice. Augustine Colley has more in the following report.
The Directorate General of Hydrocarbons says, despite repeated warnings, the illegal transfer of butane gas to power vehicles, often stored in taxi luggage compartments, remains widespread. During a weekend operation, authorities dismantled several clandestine networks involved in the activity. In total, 1,795 gas cylinders were seized, equipment used for gas transfer was confiscated, and 7 people were arrested. The illegal sites were also shut down. The operations in Akupe and Abenguru are part of a broader nationwide crackdown. In recent weeks, authorities have seized over 1,000 gas cylinders in Kagoa, more than 3,000 in Abuaso and Samo, nearly 2,500 in Yamoussoukro, and over 4,500 in Daula. Through these actions, the government, via the Ministry of Mines, Petroleum and Energy, says it aims to dismantle illegal networks that expose communities to serious risks, including explosions, fires, and gas poisoning. Authorities warn that handling gas in unsafe conditions and without proper safety measures can turn homes and entire neighborhoods into ticking time bombs. However, some drivers involved in the practice say they resort to using butane gas because of the high cost of conventional fuel, arguing that it allows them to make better financial returns.
Augustine Colley with that report filed in by our Abidjan correspondent Marcel Alistin Blay. Now, the Ghanaian government has announced a new measure to tighten border control to reduce smuggling and protect government revenue. According to the Minister of Finance, Dr. Castle Atoforsen, the Ghana Revenue Authority has been directed to ban the transit of rice, sugar, and cooking oil by land. The measure takes immediate effect. From Accra, Nadi Tete has more.
The directive follows a meeting between the Finance Minister and the Acting Commissioner of Customs, Aaron Akano, along with management of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to review developments at the country's borders. Under the new measures, a number of widely traded commodities including rice, sugar, cooking oil, frozen food products, flour, textiles, canned tomatoes, pasta, and certain pharmaceutical products will no longer be allowed to enter or transit through Ghana via land borders. Authorities say these goods must now be routed exclusively through Ghana's seaports. Officials believe the move will strengthen monitoring of import and transit trade, close loopholes that allow revenue leakages, and enhance customs oversight over goods moving through the country. The directive could also affect cross-border trade flows within the West African sub-region, where land transportation remains a major route for the movement of food items, consumer goods and pharmaceuticals. In addition, the Finance Minister has ordered the re-centralization of the Customs Technical Services Bureau, a move aimed at creating a one-stop center for valuation while improving intelligence sharing within the Customs Division. The new system will also draw on insights generated through the Publican Artificial Intelligence platform to strengthen customs operations. The minister has directed all relevant departments and units within the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to ensure strict compliance with the new measures as the government intensifies efforts to safeguard public revenue. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio Broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Relatives of former Guinean Minister Camara regain freedom days after abduction by unknown men. Banjul holds a 3-day regional conference on data management and innovation. Liberia's Anti-Corruption Commission dismisses cases against 28 current and former government officials. Aliko Dangote and 3 Nigerians join Forbes' list of Africa's 23 wealthiest individuals. Still ahead in the news, we have press review, guest interview, and sport news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
More from International Women's Day celebration. The government of the Gambia announced the establishment of a special court dedicated to handling sexual gender-based violence SGBV cases. The initiative through the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare is the first of its kind in the country. Gender Minister Fatou Kinte made the announcement reaffirming the Barrow government's commitment to zero tolerance policy on sexual and gender-based violence. Let's join Abdullah Hassan for more.
Speaking on the occasion of International Women's Day 2026 under the theme Rights, Justice, Action for All Women and Girls, Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, Fatou Kinte reiterated the government's commitment to protecting the dignity of women and girls through the creation of the specialized gender-based violence court.
I'm pleased to inform you that the Gambia is on the verge of inaugurating the special court for sexual and gender-based violence, the first of its kind in the Gambia. The establishment of the SGBV court demonstrates government's unwavering commitment to addressing sexual and gender-based violence through specialized, efficient and survivor-centered procedures.
Sexual and gender-based violence remains a significant human rights and public health issue in the Gambia. According to the Demographic and Health Survey 2019 to 2020, 46% of women aged 15 to 49 experienced physical violence since age 15. Applauding the initiative, women's rights activist and president of the Pan-African Female Youth Leaders, Elizabeth Quinta Gomez, emphasizes that addressing the problems related to sexual and gender-based violence goes beyond the creation of the SGBV courts.
We often look at the part of victims and survivors just getting justice. But after the justice, what comes next? Some of them are traumatized. And how best do we create safe spaces to ensure that these people live in a safe environment? Mentally, they have a lot of work to do. They need psychosocial support. They need to reintegrate back in society. This is a big gap that we always have in our advocacy and in ensuring that there is justice for women and girls.
When established, the special court has the potential of revolutionizing the delivery of justice for survivors by ensuring faster trials, reducing case backlog, discouraging withdrawals, and preventing future acts of violence.
Abdullah Hassan reporting.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
For today's press review, WD's Abraham Parker is standing by for briefs of national dailies in Liberia.
This edition features 3 local dailies. We begin with front-page African news paper that goes with these stories. Armed Guinean soldiers accused of crossing into Liberia, order Liberian flag removed, refused to return seized construction equipment despite Minister Yumande's intervention. Nothing is absolute. Chief Justice Wese reaffirms his Supreme Court's stance. Our next stop is the independent news paper. Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission closes Mageo's case, says no cause to pursue criminal proceedings. Youth Coalition defends CNDRA boss, rejects corruption allegations. Construction of US $15 million Kavala Bridge gains momentum, regional connectivity inside. And our last stop is the Analyst news paper with these stories. Liberia urged to tread carefully Iran Krasi, journalist calls for cautious diplomacy to Washington. Belated praises Liberian Senate Audit Initiative, urges legislature financial transparency. Liberia moves to implement COP30 accounts. EPA Action A put climate commitments implementation. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review. It's back to you in studio, and thanks so kindly for listening.
Many thanks to Abraham Parker for the press review in Liberia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview takes us back to the Gambia, where a specialized court will soon be set up to try cases of sexual and gender-based violence. In the Gambia, SGBV remains a significant human rights and public health issue. According to the Demographic and Health Survey 2019-2020, 46% of women aged 15 to 49 experience physical violence since age 15, while President of Female Lawyers Association of the Gambia, Ananjai, reacts.
Yes, we have been consulted in the setting up of the court. The main consultations, I believe, is with the main stakeholders, which is the judiciary and the ministry. We are just an ancillary stakeholder in the process, but we have been consulted. The setting up of the court, this is a government decision, and we are just an NGO trying to ensure that gender-based violent cases are treated with expediency. And I believe that's the reason why they decided that there should be a special court. Just like you have a children's court or employment court, they found it necessary to have a specialized court because of the rapid increase in the number of SGBV cases. So it's a positive initiative, and coming up to set it up, obviously it will go through the proper procedure. Because as a judiciary, the Chief Justice has powers to establish certain courts within the jurisdiction. So the setting up will definitely come from proper mandate to set it up.
How do current courts handle gender or sexual-based violence cases in the Gambia? What are the main challenges survivors face? And do you think a dedicated court realistically would speed up justice and reduce frustration of victims?
Well, I can just speak from experience in terms of how cases are being handled. Obviously, as a country, not just SGBV cases, but general cases, forensic is still an issue. I believe probably when they have the forensic lab, which they're building, it will solve some of the issues that victims do face. But the delays in the court system, I guess so many cases in the court system, less magistrates and judges. So that is something that affects cases. Obviously, there has been prosecution of SGBV cases over the years, and sometimes victims do feel stigmatized in the process. Victims feel victimized. Some cases they go through the normal process. We're still using longhand. Judges have to write, magistrates have to write. So these are all delays. There are so many different factors that can cause delays, but having a special court dedicated for SGBV cases, I believe it would at least close that gap, if not 100%, but probably it will reduce the backlog of SGBV cases.
All right. In your experience, what key features should this court have to be effective? I know you did mention some of the challenges that the country is facing when it comes to cases of gender-based violence or sexual and gender-based violence. But what do you think are the key aspects that are needed to curb these challenges?
Well, I guess features that will protect the victim, because whilst the court is supposed to do justice, they shouldn't take sides, but also the protection of victims during the whole process. And I believe steps are being taken by the government and the judiciary to ensure that before the court is set up, all these things are put in place like you have in other countries.
Ananja is the president of Female Lawyers Association of the Gambia. Well, in sports, former Super Eagles coach Adegboy Onibinde has died at the age of 88. His family announced his passing on Monday in a statement signed by relative Bolade Adesuye. The message described Onibinde as the first indigenous Nigerian to coach the national team, as well as respected traditional chief from Modakeke. The family praised his contributions to Nigerian football and said details of the funeral arrangements will be announced later. And in basketball, the qualifying tournament for the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup 2026 will begin on Wednesday across 4 cities: Xi'an, Lyon, Villeurbanne in France, San Juan in Puerto Rico, and Istanbul in Turkey. The competition runs until March 17 and will feature 24 teams battling for the remaining places at the World Cup. 5 teams have already secured qualification: host Germany, the United States, Belgium, Australia, and Nigeria. The tournament will determine the final 11 spots for the competition. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink and West Africa Democracy Radio Broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Sehnjai for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X and Instagram, and Facebook at WDR English. Do join Demba Amaran at 1 p.m. for the second edition of News in French, that is Info Chevo. I am Sankula Jibril Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakata FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.